Hello friends, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about all the books I've read in 2022. Last year I read 22 books, but I'm only going to show you the ones that I think are important or that at some point I kind of liked and I will recommend. I did read a lot of audiobooks last year, but they were very short and not necessarily interesting for me to put in this video. But I did read 22 books. I will put under the description all the books I read in case you're interested. Well, we're gonna start with the books I've read first. I don't know if you guys know, but I am majoring in English. So there's a lot of literature classes that I have to take. So I had to read a lot of this stuff. Here I was reading The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison. It is a very, very good book. It was for my literary theory class. And this was very good. I really recommend it. It's a great story. It is very sad. I read it at the end of the semester, so I was kind of tired already, but I do recommend it. This is a great story. I think the writer is very good. I'm not gonna say much about the story, but it's fascinating. It's about this young black girl that wants to be beautiful, and the bluest eye is the idea that having blue eyes is a concept of beauty. And there's a lot of racism internalized as well and put out there. It is very interesting, so I recommend it. We have Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway. I read this one for my English literature class. I believe it's after the 1800s literature because it says here 1923. I'm bad remembering things, but this is just one of those stories that gives you perspective of what aging can look like and the difference between life for women back in the days and life for women today. So I think this is a good read if you're a feminist. It's a good read if you want to understand perspective of womanhood and different cultures. I'm not English, so obviously for me that was a little difficult to read and understand, but I do like this book. This book reminded me that you have to enjoy life. It will all go away at some point, and whatever you think that you have to do today, the moment that you hit that age where you lose value for society, all you gave to society, all you gave to the people that you thought you should have given to, it really don't matter at the end. Very good book. I recommend it. It's not as hard to read as this one, but recommend it 100%. Then we have Jane Eyre. I think that's how you pronounce it, from Charlotte Bronte. Okay, this was a torture to read. I don't know why would someone read this. This is tragic. This is it's so sad. Obviously, we're reading it from a different perspective in a different time period, but it's so ridiculous how much the main character compares herself with slaves, and she has a lot of access to opportunities, and she is just not getting it. It's a sad story. It's another way of representing women in that time period. It's very jarring to read. The main character it's not unknowing. She is very self-centered and self-critical to the point that is painful, and to the point where she is deaf to others' pain because she's so focused on her own pain. And I get it. She, her story is valid. I'm not saying it's not, but when you see it from outside, you're like, wow, you need to get your head out of that space because you're missing out on a lot. But part of the story, it's a good way to humble yourself when you read this. I think that if you read this book, you might feel like, wow, maybe I'm doing that, and you don't want to be that person. Great read, great historical novel. Deconstruction in one word. The Crying of Lot 49. I am going to be honest with you. I think that this book is a waste of time until you read it. And I read it, and I finished the book, and I was like, what a waste of time. I don't understand why I did this. Obviously, this was for my class, but this is a great representation of what the construction will do to you and will do to your life, and it will do to everything around you. I think it's a fun trip. It is a trip, and you just have to take it for what it is, but it is a good read. It's just very weird, but if you want to know what this is about or why it is so weird, it's because it's about deconstruction, or the writer, the author, Pynchon is very crazy, but it's a trip. And if you want to have fun and go nowhere, this is the book for you. Now, Wine Sargasso Sea. I didn't like it personally because it's apparently, for some people, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a part of this one. It's kind of like the story of one character here, like the life of that person. This is basically, I think it's set up in Jamaica. This story of someone who belongs to an English colony that is, I would say, white, but like white for the Caribbean, but not white enough. They're not black, and it's still like within all that frame of like, oh, what happened with the colonies. Honestly, it's very complex, it's very boring. It's kind of like in the air with like whiteness and privilege and money, but then also not being from the UK but still white enough. So it's like what type of mix you are and whatnot. And she has some like mental illness, and she's bullied and all that stuff that comes from not having a clear identity because of colonization, basically. This is a very sad book. It has the same vibe as this one. Have fun with that. The part that I love the most. For my break, I didn't have a lot of time to read a lot of the things I want to read, so a lot of the books I've read were audiobooks because I was in school and I couldn't do all the stuff. Though I'm missing one book I want to bring to the table. We're going to start off with Star Wars Heir to the Empire, the first book. It's a trilogy. I have the second one I'm going to start reading soon. Haven't read science fiction before. I've watched it, of course, and I don't think I have actually read it in the past. I think most of my stuff has been like high fantasy. So I decided to give science fiction a try because I feel like I'm very into it when it comes to movies and comics and stuff like that, but never like a novel. And I like the Star Wars universe enough to give it a try. I would say that the book is a 10 out of 10. I very much love the writing of Timothy. He is a very good writer. I very much enjoyed him. It was a slow burn though. It is part of what sci-fi is. There's a lot of building up the social, political, and technological aspect of the movement or of the story. I say movement because I already know what this is about, but so it is a slow read. I think it gets good after halfway through the book. That's when it gets, interesting. But it was very enjoyable. Like, I enjoyed it so much. It was such a good read. And you just have to go through it. Just go for it. Keep on reading it, even if it's very slow and you feel like you're not going anywhere. It does get juicy at the end. So very good. Cannot wait to read the second one, which I already have. I got it for Christmas. So next to the other one, I want to get... Alright, we're going to continue with this book right here. I've read it in school. This book is very good. I loved it. It has so much information and cultural references. It is about it's a Muslim family in UK, and that they have a different relationship. Certain part of Indians and Pakistanis and certain part of like Asia they have a lot of history with England or UK. I'm not sure. I'm not well versed on all that, but I learned a lot in this book culturally, because you were raised in a country, but you were originally from another place and you have different values, and your parents put in different values, but then you see the world differently because you have a different experience somewhere else. And it's just very interesting to read. We did have an exercise at the end of the semester with this book where you would choose 2 words and then try to find as much meaning within the work as possible to see how deep the writing or the work itself is. And I think that the author, Zadie Smith, did fantastic, because when we did that exercise, we were able to see the work in depth and how much layer this work has when it comes to identity and culture and ethnicity and history. It's like so much more than what you think when you read it. And when you really want to know more, if you want to know more, just try to think a little bit deeper. Try to look for more meaning in it, and this book will definitely give you more. So it's a great read. It's 100 out of 10. It really made me fall in love with literature again. So recommend it 100%. So then after that, this is a novella that belongs to the King Killer Chronicles. This is about Ari, a side character. A very good novel or novella. It's just a little introduction of her world. She's a little deranged. There's not much in here about the Chronicle or like the whole universe, like the whole saga. It's not in here. I think this is going to be a trilogy. I'm not sure, but the third book is not ready yet or out. So I'm not sure how many other books the author is gonna publish, but that's why I say saga. But this is only about her, and it's literally about 7 days of her life, just living her life. And this is a very sensitive or a very particular character that is mysterious, and you get to know her in depth in the mundane, like everyday activities and everyday things that she does, but you don't get to know her, like her background in this book. So if you haven't read the second book, or you haven't actually read the whole 2 pieces of work, I would say you can read this and nothing will happen, because there's really not much information. There's no spoilers to be afraid of, but this is a good read. This is about somebody who is unstable, mentally unstable, and is interesting. I fell in love with this book when I was 18 and I read it. I was like, this is fascinating. This is like whimsical and deranged and weird in a good way. Like, it's fantastic. Good read. I think you should do it. Read it a couple times throughout your life. I would recommend it. Read it every year, because it will give you a different perspective of who you might be. I don't know. It's very cool. Anyways, lastly, I want to talk to you guys about what I did after I was done with school. I found the whole Twilight saga at a Goodwill, and each of the books were about like $1. No, not, yeah, $1.25 or something like that. So $5 for the whole thing. And I read it when I was a teenager. I read it in Spanish as well, so I was very excited to reread it and also to read it in English for the first time. First book, 100 out of 10. I did not know how cringe the book was. I didn't remember it as cringe, but it was so funny to read. It was going back home, you know, when I was 14 and I wanted to feel cool and be Bella, you know, like, this is such a teenage book. So I loved it. It was very cringe. One of the things that I enjoyed a lot about this book was that since I read it in English for the first time, I kind of appreciated Bella's vocabulary a little bit more, because first of all, I was 14, so I don't think I was paying attention to that, but then also it was in Spanish, so I don't know if the translation dumb it down for me or anything, but the vocabulary that Bella has here, it's like, oh yeah, she knows how to read. So that was very fun to read. I was cringing and laughing all the time. It was such a great book. Then we go to the second one, which is my favorite one. I think that the relationship that Bella has with Jacob is amazing, and the chemistry is real, and it's super cool. It gets very cringy at the end. I think it's because Edward is there, or like as soon as Edward gets in the picture, everything goes south. So no, I would give it a 7 out of 10 because Edward appears and, like, you know, disrupt the piece, and it's just not cool. But I very much enjoyed it. I actually was looking forward to read this one because I really like Jacob and Bella together. Very cool. This book could have been avoided. I don't think this book is great. This book is like an in-between Bella being a vampire or not, or like, what are you gonna do? How is she gonna put together the 2 most important people in her life? Like, she needs to realize she was in love with both of them at the same time. Jacob is an asshole. I don't like him after being a wolf, and also that the author did him dirty. Like, she wanted him to be more aggressive and like disrespectful because I guess somehow she wanted us to fall in love with Edward. I don't like Edward at all. He's such an annoying person. Anyways, this book is... the only good in this book is trying to find Victoria, and the reason why that's the only fun part is because my name is Victoria, and that was hilarious. But this book is not even cringe. It's just like, whatever. I don't care. This is the book. I find this book very cool. I do not remember all the nuance of becoming a vampire and having a baby as a vampire, and like specificity. I think I said it right. Specificity. damn, how specific the author is explaining the access of information, how much their senses, like 4K basically. That was very fun for me. I think it's very cool. The drama is a little slow, but I like how they mix it up with like Bella learning all the new stuff and also the complications of the life around them, and how she separated the human and mortal world from them. Like it did automatically, she was part of something different, and she was looking from a different perspective, and it was very cool to see. I don't remember that from when I was a kid. I probably was just very dumb, but it was very cool to read. The ending was great. So yeah, loved it. Those are the books that I've read. Again, I did read some other books. They were audiobooks, so I listened to them instead of reading, but I still like to say reading. And then there's other books that I did read, but I don't have the copy with me. But anyways, I will put those books under the description so you know what else I've read, and if you're interested in reading some of them, where you can find them. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, and keep on reading. It makes you smart.